Catherine Lewis. We're here at the WALS conference. You just did a keynote on the most important factors of professional learning research in lesson studies. And I would like to ask you some questions about the lesson study cycle and the most important factors of each step along the way. To start with the study phase. You said we underuse the study phase. What do you mean by that?
Well, during the study phase, it's an opportunity to look at what's known about a subject, what's known about teaching fractions, what's known about teaching about slavery. It's an opportunity to look at academic resources. It's an opportunity to look at video of other teachers teaching something. It's an opportunity to look at your own standards and really think deeply across grade levels. What do those standards mean? It's an opportunity to look at materials from another country. You know, we've often used Japanese resources in our work because they've really thought carefully for many years about the best tasks to introduce certain topics. So it's an opportunity to study all those resources and really expand your content knowledge.
Okay. During the planning phase, you showed some examples of teachers like rehearsing lessons. How do you value this?
Well, I think to do a mock-up lesson can be very valuable because you know, how you word a question to students can make it either a question that really sparks their interest and curiosity, or one that puzzles them, you know, and doesn't make sense to them. So really thinking carefully about the wording. You know, do you want to ask students, for example, just to find the answer to this problem, or do you want to ask them a question like, how do mathematicians find how to add two fractions when they have different denominators? So by working with your colleagues, you can practice the questioning. So in the mock-up lesson, your colleagues can be the students, and they can, if they don't understand something, they'll say, I don't understand, and you can realize that your question's not clear. They can help you see, you know, what's clear and what's not on the board.
Because you showed a lot of examples, right, about like promoting student thinking, and many cases is problem-based. And there's a lot of discussion also in mathematicians. They say like the balance between problem-based and more explicit instruction. How do you feel about this?
Well, mathematics is about solving novel problems. So if you're solving a problem that it's already been demonstrated to you how to solve, that's not a problem. That's what mathematicians would call an exercise. So if you want students to be doing mathematics, they need to be solving problems that they've never been previously taught how to solve.
Okay, thank you. During the doing phase, you were talking about referring to Professor Kiyomi Akita, that the children are change agents in this process. What do you mean by that?
Well, by really focusing on the experience of one child during a lesson, we notice how happy they are or how bored and disaffected they are. I think it really builds our empathy and our willingness to try and improve our teaching for every child. It also gives us a lot of insight into what works for students and what doesn't work for students. And I think it also helps us really appreciate the shortcomings of our own practice. I mean, teachers have said to me many times, you know, I was watching this student and they were just about to have a breakthrough when the teacher came by and spoon-fed them the response. So we realized, and she said, I'm never going to do that. I realized I should probably do that all the time in my practice, and I'm not going to do it anymore. So it really helps us see, you know, the lesson through the children's eyes.
Okay. Yeah. During the reflection phase, also things change. You were referring to the difference between lesson study as research and about professional learning. And with the example of people saying like, yeah, we used to make polite comments to each other, and now we are having fierce arguments. The life was so easy before the lesson study. How do you value this process, or how do you create this process? How do you make this happen?
Well, I think if you have a good lesson study cycle with challenging outside resources that help you think more deeply, and careful observation of the students, a good task that really reveals how the students are thinking, then I think naturally among colleagues you notice different things and you learn from one another, and you also challenge one another. And because at the beginning of the process you've said, what do we care about? You know, what's our research theme? Who do we want our students to become? What are the qualities we want them to have? Because you've done that at the outset, it's not your vision of education or my vision of education, it's our students. We're thinking about our students. So I think it helps people overcome the differences in how they view, because they want to all do the best for our students.
Okay, for last question, schools that are just starting with lesson study, what would your advice be to these schools? What should they focus on first when implementing lesson study?
I would say start small, get a team of people who are really willing to experiment. Don't force anyone in. And perhaps start by setting a research theme, by thinking what are the qualities we want students to have 5 or 10 years from now, and really thinking about those, all the ideal qualities, and then who are they now, and what's a gap between the two of those that really we want to work on, that motivates us as educators. So start with a research theme, and then pick something in your teaching that you really struggle with, that's hard for everyone to teach or hard for students to learn, and accumulate, you know, read up, go visit a specialist, find out what's known about teaching that topic, and then really focus on that and also on your long-term goals.
Okay, that's very specific. Very thanks to you, and have a good day today, and a good trip back to the USA or Tokyo.
No, to US, yeah, thank you.
Bye bye.